students. Today I want to go over the AP testing guide for 2020. The College Board just sent out this document to all teachers, so I want to walk you through it because it is a massive PDF, and I think it'd be beneficial to kind of walk through this thing together. So first off, you guys have some resources. There's the link to get all these documents if you want to look at them. But again, I'll go through these documents with you now, and then at your own leisure, just go to this link right here, and you can check out these documents at your own pace. So this guide is broken up into certain sections. First off, you are going to get an e-ticket for this exam. That's how you are going to take it. We'll look at that here in a second. We'll go over the 5 steps to take before the exam day starts. We'll talk about what exam day is going to look like, and then finally what's going to happen with your scores, your credit, and your placement after this exam is completed. So let's start off with that AP exam e-ticket. Your exam e-ticket. This is what's going to happen. You do need to have an exam ticket before you take the test. So 2 days before the scheduled test date, which for us is May 15th, you are going to get an email that includes an AP ID and then your time that you're going to test, again May 15th at 11, and then you hit this go to exam. So you need to have your email correct under the AP classroom to get this email. If you don't, you can log into this link right here. You can log into the College Board and you can get this link, but you need to know your login for the College Board, so please go make sure that you can get into this thing and that the email is correct so that this all runs smoothly on test day. This is just saying that it's valid for your testing time, and again, we are U.S. History, May 15th at 11, so I'll keep reminding you that as we move forward, but that's all this is saying, is that this is our testing time. Now, they do have makeup dates, so let's say on May 15th, you have a surgery scheduled or there's something really serious, you can reschedule your exam for this makeup date, which for us, I haven't looked at this, is going to be June 3rd at 9 a.m. So if you need to, you can do this. I don't recommend doing this unless you really have to, because what if something goes wrong on this makeup date and then you're screwed, right? So it's better to take this one. If something goes wrong, no big deal. You can do the June makeup date, but I wouldn't rely on this date. Another thing too, this is kind of cool, if you don't use your e-ticket on the May 15th date, they're just going to roll over to the June date. So you don't even need to call AP and say, hey, I want to cancel for that May date. You can just not take it, and they'll just roll over that that date to the June makeup date. But again, don't rely on that. Seriously, take this May one if you can, because if something goes wrong here, you have this June date as a backup. After this June date, there is no more makeups. So make sure you do that May date. Also, everyone is going to be logging in across the nation at the same exact time. So like for LA, right, we're 11 and then New York is 2. So everyone is logging in at the same exact time to take a test. Now, if you ask me, it's kind of likely that the AP website is going to crash, but that's not going to be your fault, so oh well. But just a reminder that everyone is logging in at the same exact time. Now, what to expect on this year's exam? They have a good point here, okay? It won't be more difficult to earn a 3, 4, or 5 this year. If you've been paying attention to the rubric for your DBQ, it's really not that difficult, right, to get a 3, 4, or 5. So, and that's because you're taking a whole DBQ in 45 minutes, so the rubric is kind of easy. So I think this will be easier than a regular year's test, which is really nice. Here they're saying it's not graded on a curve. That's kind of a no duh. They say don't worry if it's not completed. I'll talk about that in a second once we get to the end, but just know that this exam will be easier than a regular exam. They also want to tell you that you should have a good testing environment, okay, because this is only 45 minutes. It's short, so you need to focus for those 45 minutes and make sure that you know exactly what you're doing there. Now, how are you going to upload your response? This is actually kind of cool, okay? You have a few options. You can copy and paste a typed response, so you can write it in, or type it rather, in Google Docs, and then just copy and paste it into the space provided. You could save your Google Doc as a doc and then attach it if you want to. You can also handwrite it and then take a picture of it with your phone and then submit it that way. So those are your 3 different styles of attaching. Now with a copy and paste, what they recommend is you set up a side-by-side window, okay? So what you do is half your screen will be a tab with the exam open, right? And you can have your little timer there, and you know how much time you have left, and it's the little paste window there too. And then on your right, you have Google Docs open where you're typing away your answer, and then once you're done, you just copy, paste it over here, and you're done, okay? Well, you're not done, you have to submit it after that, but that is how they recommend doing it. This is interesting because if you can use Google Docs, you can have a doc ready with like an outline kind of already written into it, if you know what I mean. So that's an idea I want to play with later on as we get closer to the test date, but it's just something to think about. You could have a doc with, you know, sentence starters already ready to go, and you can just kind of plug in whatever information you need for the DBQ. So interesting idea, we'll think about that, okay? Option 2 is attaching a document. So if you want to use, instead of like Google Docs, you want to use Microsoft Word or Notes or whatever, you can type it and then save the document and then attach it and then submit it that way. And again, you do the side-by-side windows, kind of similar there. Another one is the handwritten. I wouldn't recommend this unless you're really fast at handwriting. I would think most of us are much faster typers and handwriters, so this is kind of a weird one. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you want, you can handwrite it, take a picture, and then submit it. Make sure you're using a dark pen. Make sure your picture isn't all blurry, and the lighting's good, because it is difficult to read handwriting. So make sure it's very clear if you're going to do this option. Music theory exam we don't care about. World languages we don't care about. Accommodations. If you already submitted accommodations, you're good to go. So if you have extended time, you're set. I don't think this applies to anyone in our class, but maybe. And if you have a temporary affliction that's messing up your testing scores, I've actually had a few students ask about that. You can go to this link right here, and I think you can apply to see if they'll allow you to have extended time. So something to think about there. Now, makeup exams, you can ask for a request a makeup if you miss the May, but they said earlier if you missed the May, you can just retake it in June, so it's not a big deal. So you have to submit a form, I see. So if you missed the May one, you have to submit a form within 2 days to say, hey, I missed the exam and I want to remake it up in June. Okay, so that's what it is. And then I think there somewhere it says if you miss the June one, it's over and you don't get to retake it. So keep that in mind too. So if you miss that May one, within 48 hours, submit this form, and then they'll give you your June e-ticket. Okay? Right before you take the exam. So on May 15th, at probably about 10:30, these are the steps you should take before that exam begins, or even days before, just to be sure in case you need to get some new technology, okay? So first off, review your contact information. Like I said, in AP Classroom, make sure your email matches what you're going to use for the test, okay? Because they're going to be sending you that information. Number 2, Check your technology, so make sure that if you're going to use your laptop, that everything's okay on your laptop, it's updated, it's not going to stop in the middle of the exam and ask you to update. So make sure everything's ready to go with your technology. On May 4th, this is really cool, I'm excited for it. They're going to have an exam demo where you get to practice writing and submitting a response, so you get to see exactly what it's going to look like before the test date. So this is a really cool resource, and I'll make a video on that once that comes out too, because I think it's awesome. Again, make sure you gather what you need. So for us, that's our timeline reviews, our thematic review sheets that we did before work was mandatory, any classwork you want to have in front of you, whatever. Okay, so make sure you have everything you need for the exam, so once the exam starts, you're like, oh, let me go run over to my living room where I have all my handouts. You should have them right in front of you next to your computer. Next up, make sure you get your e-ticket 2 days before the exam. If you don't, log into the AP Central or AP Classroom and find that ID so you can take the exam. Make sure you have that, it's essential. Now, reviewing your contact information, like I said, go to this link right here in the College Board website. Make sure that your email matches up. Pretty self-explanatory. Checking your tech, make sure it's up to date. Your browser, they said, won't get locked down, so you don't worry about that, but you do have to use, I think, Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or any of those kind of established browsers, so make sure you have those browsers ready. Grammarly, they will not allow you to use Grammarly, which is really important. So it says if it is, you need to remove it because it's going to invalidate your score. So make sure everyone uninstalls or pauses Grammarly before starting this test. And then again, if you're going to do that handwriting one, follow these directions. I don't suspect any of us are going to be using the handwritten, but there you go if you need those there. Preparing your document type, again, if we are going to use Google Docs, that's kind of what I imagine most people are going to use. Have it ready to go and open on a tab so that once you open up that question, you can read it and quickly start typing straight away. Okay, so make sure your Google Doc is ready. Also, you should have your Apple ID and initials at the top of that page. So we'll talk about that too as it gets closer, but make sure that Apple ID and initials are up there at the top. If you're handwriting, they say used white paper. It has to be 8.5 by 11, number 2 pencil or pen, whatever. Really, if you're handwriting, just make sure it's clearly written and that your picture is not blurry. So when you submit it, the reader can clearly read exactly what you're writing. Again, practice, we'll talk about the demo once that drops, but we'll get there, so don't worry about that quite yet. Now, what do students need on the exam day? You need to have your e-ticket, you should have your completed checklist, which we talked about, you should have your device ready, the browser, here we go, so Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, you need to have your internet connection established, so these are everything you need. They say that you can use your class notes and study guides, you can use your textbook, whatever, previous assignments, all this stuff is allowed. Nice about using those additional resources. They say that you can use your notes, so they say that you use class notes, study guides, previous assignments, things like that. But you guys are not allowed to download your study notes from other students, okay? So I think the reason they are doing this is so that their plagiarism detection software doesn't target your assignment. So like, let's say you and 3 other people all made a study guide together, and then you're using it on the exam and you list the same points. They may catch that and take it as cheating, so be careful with sharing those study notes, okay? They also make a very good point. If you're planning on just using the internet, I agree with them that that's going to be a big waste of time, because you're going to spend your time looking through different websites trying to find the perfect evidence and things like that. That is not a good idea, okay? You should really rely on your study guides, because it's quicker, it's easier, and you're not going to be wasting your time digging through Google. So keep in mind that internet searches, if you have to do it, go for it, but I think it's not a good idea, and I think it's going to waste way too much time. Also, they say that internet-based facts, research, opinions aren't relevant to the AP exam and won't raise student scores. I'm not too sure how they're going to determine that whatever fact you used you got off the internet, so that's kind of a question mark for me, but we'll see, okay? And this is kind of a no-brainer. If you copy from a website, social media, or online forum, that is cheating. If you go on Reddit or something right when the test drops and you post the question to Reddit and you say, hey guys, can you help me with this question? That is highly illegal, and they will invalidate your score. So do not post anything on social media about the test before or after, okay? That is a big no-no, because they will take that as copying and cheating, and you will fail the test, or they'll invalidate your score and you won't get any college credit. So do not post anything or ask any questions online. That's a big no-no. Now, again, you will, on May 4th, we will get to get the email with your ID, and that's actually next week, so you guys will have that link ready to rock, and then 2 days before your exam, you will get your e-link and your Apple ID. And if you don't get that, you can log into Google Classroom and check that out, okay? You should complete this exam day checklist. It's only 5 things. You can get the hard copy here if you want to make sure. It's all pretty self-explanatory to me, but if you want to have like an official checklist in front of you and tick off the boxes, you're welcome to do that with this link. So there you go. Happen on exam day. May 15th is going to roll around, and at 10:30 you guys need to get online and pull up your e-ticket and open up the link inside of that email, okay? And then just sit there and wait for that exam to begin. During these 30 minutes of waiting, you can go ahead and read those review sheets, look at those timelines, and just kind of get some history jammed into your head before the exam starts. 45 minutes is how long the test will take. The question will appear, the timer will start, and you can go ahead and start responding to your question. There is a 5-minute timer, so I'll look at that in a second, but the timer is going to turn red when you have 5 minutes left. And that is when you need to submit your response. So you're writing, 45 minutes, timer ends, and you have 5 minutes to get that response submitted to AP. Okay, and again, that's that copy and paste into the box and then submit or upload the document or take a picture, okay? Okay, so testing environment, they say that you should have a quiet room, remove distractions, turn on the do not disturb setting on your device. That's more for phones, but it's a good idea. Tell your family that you're testing and that it is for college credit, and to leave you alone, okay? That's very important. So if you have siblings or anything, tell them that you need 45 minutes of undisturbed focused time in a room where they can leave you alone. Make sure your device is plugged in or your charger is right next to you so that you have that ready to go. Limit the bandwidth, so you don't want people playing games or streaming while you are doing this test, because if the internet drops, you're going to lose valuable time. And then again, have that printed checklist and required documents or optional documents next to you before this test begins. Some exam security. They are going to make sure that you guys aren't cheating on social media, because they will be monitoring things like Reddit and forums and Facebook to see if anybody is posting questions and they will identify those people and invalidate their score, so do not do that. They also are scanning, and they're using plagiarism detection software, probably like turnitin.com, so just be very careful if you're doing those shared study guides. I recommend writing your own because this could trigger that software. Your tests or your exams are also going to be shared directly with me so that I can monitor if you did any cheating. This class, I'm not worried about that at all, but they're offering that service. If you do cheat, okay, your score is going to be canceled, and they're going to let college admissions know that you did attempt to cheat, and that is a big no-no. You can appeal a cheat if they catch you with this detection software and you're like, hey man, I didn't cheat, that's BS. You and I can work out how to appeal that process, but I don't suspect that's going to be a problem with our class here. Now, again, 30 minutes before your exam, you do want to check in, and you're going to find that in your email. You're going to submit your AP ID. So 30 minutes before, you should do that. Don't refresh your browser in that process because it's going to waste time again. We'll go look at that in a second. Answering the exam questions. Ours is not divided into parts, so don't worry about that. You can just go ahead and start writing your essay straight off the bat. Grammarly, again, will it'll make your test not work, okay? So make sure you guys uninstall Grammarly, very important. We're good on that. We don't have more than one question, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, managing time. Again, you are going to have a timer here throughout the entire exam. I recommend not looking at this too much because it's going to psych you out if you see this timer clicking down constantly. So maybe focus more on the work, look back every 5 minutes or so, but don't obsess over this timer because it's going to psych you out and make you kind of anxious during the test, okay? And like I said before, 5 minutes before your time is up, the timer is going to turn red. That means you need to submit your work as soon as that timer turns red. So stop typing, doing whatever you're doing, and submit. It's way more important that you submit something than finish, okay? If you don't submit something on time, you just don't get credit for any of it. So even if you have like 3 paragraphs written, submit that anyway because it's better to get, maybe a 7 out of 10 or something rather than a 0 out of 10. So submit whatever you have as soon as that timer turns red. Now, submitting your response, again, you attach or paste your response, you click submit. This is kind of a no duh here, but there you go, okay? So attach or copy and paste, whatever you're doing, and submit it. Now, what could go wrong? They talk about how if you lose internet connection or your device crashes or something goes wrong, you can restart your computer or do whatever you need to do to fix the problem, reopen that email, and then just rejoin with your e-ticket. Now, if your internet was out for 5 minutes, you will have lost 5 minutes on your timer. So this is a real bummer. I hope it doesn't happen, but at least you can log back in once you get internet back and continue taking the exam, okay? They also warn you, do not hit refresh on that browser. That's no good. That is going to, again, waste time because you have to log back in, so don't do that. And then also, you can request a makeup. So let's say your internet goes out for 40 minutes and you had a total of 3 minutes to do your exam. That's BS, right? So again, you can go here and request to make up the test. Are you getting college credit? Does this count for placement in college? All this is good news, okay? First off, these are going to be scored by AP readers on a scale of 1 to 5. We've talked about that before. Also, it's going to take longer to release the scores, okay? So beginning July 15th, they'll begin to release scores. Now that being said, I will receive a copy of all your essays. I will grade it and give you the score I would grade it as. that doesn't mean that's the score you got, okay? I may grade it differently than your reader, so just keep that in mind. But I'll give you like kind of a tentative score of what I think you should have gotten. But July 15th is when you'll get your real score. If you want a letter sent to your university of your score, make sure you log on to your AP website before June 20th to ask them to send it to whichever universities you want. Because afterwards, they're going to charge you $15 per report sent. So make sure before June 20th, you request them to send those scores to whatever college you're going to. Here is a few colleges that have all said they're going to count the AP test still. Even though it's a short version of the test, a bunch of colleges are still accepting these scores. So that is very good news for us. You guys can still get your college credit most likely, which I'm very happy about because you guys have done a ton of work and you deserve to get the credit you have worked for. The AP informational packet about what's going to happen with this test. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me. We'll talk more about this stuff as we get closer to the exam date. But I hope this helped you out, and I will see you guys in the next video.